Hey everyone, welcome back to the FNG Podcast. We are talking today about our favorite books that inspired us, books that made us want to write, books that we thought were absolutely bloody terrible, and we thought we could do better. So with that, let's go into just start talking about kind of what brought us to the space where we thought that maybe we could be authors. Who wants to start off?
Well,
I say
Gary.
go. Well, you should start.
Me? Okay,
You
yeah.
started first.
All right.
Age
Well,
before beauty.
the first book I ever read from cover to cover was because of the cover. When I was younger and not old enough to read yet, or not competent enough to pick up a novel and read, my older brother had this wonderful little bookcase with all kinds of cool fantasy and science fiction novels. He was a big fan of Dune, like the novelizations, and I eventually got my own hardcover of it. But there was one book that stood out, and I was always fascinated by the cover, called The Sword of Shannara by Terry Brooks. And if you haven't read it, it's a wonderful fantasy read. It has some post-apocalyptic themes in there, which I didn't know at the time. I thought it was conventional fantasy, but it kind of hints at a post-apocalyptic landscape, and then dwarves and gnomes and elves kind of arrived and evolved after Earth's collapse, per se. So the age of technology has gone away and the age of magic has given rise. And the book fascinated me because it had this glowing sword, and I was big into He-Man and Thundercats and stuff back in the 80s, where you had some big powerful sword that could do amazing things. And turns out the sword's ability was a little bit anticlimactic. It was a sword of truth, and had a very interesting power to where you'd grip it and it would lay your worst shame to bear. It would make you experience the truth about yourself, whether you were ready for it or not. And I found that fascinating. But that was the first one I read cover to cover.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, same thing for me. Man, the first book I ever picked up was this one, and it was specifically because of the cover. I don't know if you guys have read this or not, but this is Armor by John Steckley. And I don't know, when you're I think I was 17, 18 years old, and I'm walking through the bookstore, and you see this super cool guy in like this knight style armor, but he's like, in space, whatever, and he's not shooting the bug. He's literally got the rifle over his head, gonna beat this thing to death with his rifle, right? And it's like, what went wrong to make sure that make the laser gun not work anymore? That drove me to read that book. And I was not a reader. I was definitely one of those kids that like read because I absolutely had to. I think I read I think I used Jack London. What was the story? One of Jack London's stories from like 8th grade to like my junior year of high school as my book report in any English class I had, so I just hated reading. And Armor was one of those that I picked it up. To tell you the truth, it's not a super easy book to get through. There's a lot of like flashbacks and things that you kind of have to go back and forth. And as a new reader to kind of novel length stories, it really made me go through, and like I really had to work at going back and forth and figuring out like, oh, they're talking about this is previous timeline and this is current timeline. And so not necessarily an easy book to jump into, but I got through it, and I just found that I love science fiction and kind of the military science fiction genre specifically. I didn't even know that was a genre at the time, but one of those books that kind of drove me to to become a reader, and I just opened up an entire new world for me. Right, Gary, did you have the same kind of a feeling on that? Or
yeah, I was never a big reader growing up as a kid. I think it was mainly being the whole school. You have to read a book every year, and most of the books they give you, I don't know, I found them hard to relate to, let's say that. But there was a book that we had to read, and it was called The Chrysalids, and it was by British author John Wyndham. And it's an older book from 1955, and the whole premise is nuclear war. the Bible's like the only book that really survived. And they literally set their society so strictly along that, where if your big toe was not the biggest toe, you were considered a deviant and a mutant. But then it also kind of had like, but it kind of had also like, it was weird. It was a very simple story. Obviously, it was a young adult book, right? And but though they really focused on telekinesis and telepathic abilities, and one place survived that was real. Like they weren't affected by the war. They called it Sealand, which was obviously New Zealand. And so they had technology, and they ended up coming and taking the people. And that really, I loved that story, because I think it was one of those first times I read where I felt unlimited on how I could view the world that I'm reading. Where I find like Huck Finn, great story, but like your visual, it's everybody visualizes pretty much the same thing. You know what I mean? It's not too different. And I think that's why I always love sci-fi. So it was that book that really opened my eyes to the science fiction world, and then military science fiction, and then all the other genres. But unlike the purists out there, I believe it's all just science fiction and should all be enjoyed. Like I look at I put Rick Partlow book and Jeffrey Haskell's books in the same category as this book, because I'm sure they did the same thing when they when
Yeah.
new readers read their books. You know what I mean? And that's the point.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Did you read Choose Your Own Adventure books growing up?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
Those didn't last long. I think that's how a lit RPG turned to what is now, isn't it?
I would love to be reading like a lit RPG, and then like if you want to destroy the horde
Yeah.
of bad guys, turn to page 73, right?
I could
Yeah.
never get through those books. I always ended up dying in some calamity.
Yeah, same thing, right?
And
Oh,
it would happen so fast. I was like, what the hell just happened?
Oh, yeah. But what I found is, and I don't know about you guys, like e-readers are great and all, but I'm old. I either like to read the books or I like to hear the books. The ebook thing for me, I think probably because I'll lose it, is more frustrating. I don't know why there's a giant truck going down my street right now, but it's nice in Canada, so I have the window open or my patio door open. So
It's funny when you talk about e-readers. For me, it's just one more device to keep
yeah,
charged and to keep a hold of, and all of those things.
and not
I will,
lose.
I will read on my phone occasionally, but not very often, right? Just because I'm so often on my phone, just scrolling or doing whatever I'm doing. I'm like you though. I love hard copies, and so a lot of the books that I enjoy, I have gone and got like first edition hardbound versions of it, because I it's just something I enjoy. So I'll go and like throw those on my bookshelf, and it's just one of those things where I can look at it. And I guess some people do Funko Pops, some people do whatever. It's like your records behind you, Gary, right? It's like, it's just nice to have those in physical media.
Oh,
And
yeah.
you can pull it out, you get the album cover, you get to see the whole thing. And books are very much the same thing for me. So if it's something that is kind of rose to the level of importance for me, then I try to seek it out and try to find a first edition if I can.
God, I just pictured novels on vinyl.
But no,
Yeah.
I love me some ebooks. My dad actually gets into it more than I do. He's got an e-reader, and he's just like, I just go down to the local library and download all the free books I want. It's cost effective. He's always out to save a buck. So
Now I want to meet your dad just to hear if that's how he sounds.
Yeah, we got to have him on the
he
show just to hear him.
like, okay, have him on. Piper down.
But I think I mentioned this earlier, what got me back into it, because like just through my military career, and I did not like writing, but I found it hard to get into books. And I found like certain books I'd read, like On Killing was a great book for just understanding certain things. And then it was like I said, 2020, I was in Kuwait supporting our Operation Impact against ISIS or whatever was left at this point. Realistically, it was kind of winding down. So and then it was during COVID. So everybody in the military is supposed to have a family care plan. Global pandemics weren't on
Yeah.
majority of people's family care plan. So fortunately, we had to send a lot of people back. So you were kind of like a lot of us had our own rooms, and like by the time I got home or back to my little bunk, I couldn't be bothered with TV or movies or anything. So I got
Wait,
into
you had a room in Kuwait? I had to sleep in a damn tent for months.
warrant officer. So don't know what to tell you. Should have trained
Even our
harder.
squadron commander slept in a tent.
Hey, you know what? Nothing's too good for you guys, so that's what you got. Like, I don't know what to tell you here, man.
You had AC in the tent though?
Heat. It was during the winter, but it was in the middle of the Kuwaiti desert, so the winter was surprisingly chilly.
The summer is surprisingly chilly when it goes from 60 degrees, and it doesn't matter if that's Fahrenheit or Celsius at that level, and drops 20, 30 degrees at night. That's freezing.
Yeah, the temperature differential is more than a human being can adapt to, so you get very cold at night, even if it's 80 degrees.
That's why we always laugh when we watch TV shows up here from LA and like Nashville and all that, and they're wearing jeans and jackets, and you're like, it's like 95 degrees there. What are you doing?
And you can't escape from the shade is no solace, because it's like you hide in the shade, but the air is like somebody's got a blow dryer, because the air is so dry and hot. So you can't escape it. You can only get out of the sun and hopefully find a tent somewhere, unless you're in the Canadian military and they have hotels.
It wasn't a hotel.
The Air Force, right?
It was a little
big on hotels.
The Air Force, they would have like some kind of Marriott in the middle of the desert.
Oh, God.
You'd see a C-17 land, and next thing you know, you see like shipping containers from Ramada Inn coming out.
C-17, please. Air Emirates. It's the only way to travel in the Middle East.
Well, I mean, yeah, that's their advanced party.
I wish it was that way. I really do. But you're forgetting how little we spend on our defense.
Well, I just remember flying to the Middle East in a 747 that was chartered for my cavalry squadron, and I had a stupid M203 grenade launcher in between my knees for the entire trip, and I was stuck between two people, on either side. We're in full kit, and we have all our weapons. And we land in Ireland, and they wouldn't let us get off the plane.
Shit. That's just poor planning.
That's brutal.
We have our own planes too. We'd fly into these places, but all our weapons were in bags underneath the plane, and then we'd get our weapons once we got off the plane. So when we did stop in Ireland as well, or Scotland, we got off the plane.
Yeah, well, we were packing, so when they wouldn't let us off the plane.
Oh,
yeah, but we were packing in person.
Yeah, no need. Nobody was impressed or afraid.
No, not in Ireland.
Speaking of long flights and just
the funniest
terrible,
thing I ever read, ever. And we got this guy he was like this giant black guy from Georgia, and he just looked like he could break you in two. We get to one of these camps in it was in Kabul back in 2005, and there's this big thing outside the American entrance on how to properly clear your weapon. So we're like this, and just pretending like we're idiots. We're like going back, and the guy just goes, "You guys making fun of us?" We're like, "No, we're not."
No, sir.
Before every entrance, you have a clearing barrel, which is it
was just the
55-gallon drum with sand in it, and
we have it too.
It
was just the step-by-step instructions on how to do it. We thought was hilarious.
So speaking of long flights and just being stuck places, right? You guys talked about being stuck in Kuwait or being stuck wherever. I had downtime in my career too, and so I found myself my reading maybe broadened a little bit, and I went from like the really specific stuff that I read all the time, and I started looking at other books, other genres, other whatever. Do you guys specifically read MilSF, or is there other things that you guys read that you enjoy?
No, I read a lot of nonfiction, actually. And I also like thrillers. I'm a big fan of Dan Brown, and I should have given you that cover art, Brent.
I'll
But
grab some. Yeah.
Dan Brown, I love all his books. His latest book, The Secret of Secrets, that is a fantastic book. Very
Yeah.
long, but a great audiobook. What Dan Brown does better than most thriller authors is he throws you through a loop. With this particular book, the antagonist is almost like an anti-hero, but you don't know it, that
Okay.
kind of thing. And he keeps that concealed and releases it in fits and starts. And so by the end of it, you're actually rooting for the antagonist, and it's such a well-developed dynamic that he's an amazing writer. Actually, I was trying to find it, and I'm still looking for it because I found something I wanted to use as the tip for today, but it was a quote from Louis L'Amour.
Mhm.
I'm talking to for writers. I'll just go ahead and say it, but it was Louis L'Amour said, and I'm paraphrasing, you know, if you want to be a writer, then just write. You don't have to have an idea. Just start writing and let the juices flow, and the
Mhm.
story will come. So I was going to use that meme as kind of like the tip for the day, but I have one
Yeah.
in my back pocket. But in any case, Louis L'Amour, I've never personally read him. My mom read all his stuff. As far as novellas and westerns and stuff, he's kind of the king.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as far as nonfiction, I love the Bill O'Reilly books. I don't know
Okay.
if
Yeah.
you've read it yet. Killing Lincoln, Killing the Rising Sun, Killing Patton. All of them are just fantastic and very informative, extremely well researched. So I like that too. But if I want escapism, I'll jump into the sci-fi arena.
Mhm.
And I love a series that isn't necessarily super long, but has some meat to it.
Yeah.
Because if I get hooked on the first one, I want to know that there's going to be 2, 3 more in the available for
Sure.
me to read, or at least forthcoming.
See, I got
So
burned with that, though.
Gary, how about you?
So back to the Kuwait thing where I discovered Audible, I also discovered this guy, Craig Allison's Columbus Day.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've talked about this book before, but super fan, even got the autograph, and
Nice.
whole 9 yards, hard copy.
that's
Even
awesome.
got a poster there that's signed. Just a big fan of his X-Force book. There's 20 of them now or something like that. Like I
Yeah.
can't, I've lost track. Like he ended it, and it was like one of those things where he wasn't ready to end it, but he was ready to end it. But he has such a following that enough people were like, "Hey, are you sure you're not going to do a book or a spinoff?" He built a huge universe. Plus side is very long books, so you're looking at an 18 to 20-hour Audible listen,
Wow.
right? So you're definitely getting. It's almost like 2 for 1, really, if you think about it
Mhm.
with the credit system, right? But at the same time, it's a 20-hour, 18 to 20-hour Audible listen. I believe there's 19 books. I'm not sure. I'm up to date, but I'm only up to date because I want to just see how he ends. There's one more book, I believe, and I think then he's finishing it. But really got me into it. I don't even know, but for some reason, I don't think this falls under military science fiction, even though it's very military focused and war focused. It's science fiction or space opera, I mean. But it really opened my eyes to the genre itself. And then after him, I then discovered this gem of a series by B.V. Larson called Steel World. It's the Undying Mercenaries, which again, I think it's up to book 20 now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, and then but like going into what Will was saying, this is one of my favorite series. It's the Alex Hunter series. This is called Beneath the Dark Ice. It's the first book, and it's all about a special forces unit or called the Hawks, and they do the stuff like there's Krakens, like things from our history he uses and brings them into today's world's threat. but the main character is been augmented in a way where he's more powerful than he was, but it was also a life-saving thing to do. It's such a great series. I'm on like book 12 now. I think there's 14, but each book is different, so there's the same core of characters, but yeah, thriller, bit of horror, a little bit of supernatural, definitely some science fiction in there. And it's one of those books that hits every aspect for me as well, even the military aspect. So it checks all those boxes for me that I enjoy.
That's awesome.
The only thing I will warn people, if you go through the Audible, it's debris, not debris. The guy speaks like he's very British. So I think the writer's Australian.
There's debris all over the place.
Yeah, so debris. Yeah, he says debris, not debris.
Debris.
Yeah,
Debris,
and it's
yeah.
ah,
You're putting the wrong emphasis on the syllable.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
But that's really, it's not the story itself. I like how detailed he goes into certain things, and I like how the story flows. I find my writing now that I've kind of broken that, I wrote a book and okay, now I'm starting to learn this stuff. I'm really, instead of like some of the authors you think I would kind of look at for style wise, I'm actually looking at this guy as a bit more for the military side of the house. So, or for my side, for the military science fiction side of the house. So but all three of those stories literally have taken me and been with me on this journey
Right.
of writing
Yeah.
from 2020 on, right? So here we are 2026 and is still going great.
I started reading Stephen Pressfield. Have you guys ever read anything by him or
Mm-mm.
so this is Gates of Fire. This is
Okay.
kind of one of his breakout books.
Yeah.
And this is on the Spartans at Thermopylae, however you want to say that. And I don't even remember why I picked it up. I think it's required reading at, I think, all U.S. military colleges. So very, very well written stories. And what he does is he takes his own character and he puts them into a historical context. So, his Demastocles or whatever the guy's name is that's in Gates of Fire is basically retelling the story of the Spartans from the perspective of a guy who's captured by Xerxes. So he's retelling the story from a first person perspective to Xerxes, and it's just an enlightening insight into the way that Spartans would have thought and would have acted, and what it was like to kind of grow up in that type of society. And I find that those kind of books tend to inform the way that I write more than, like, I love Allinson and I love Dalzell and some of those that you guys mentioned. I thoroughly enjoy the way they write, and there are certain pieces that I pick out of that, but I also really, really love the historical aspects of people that are outside the genre that I write in. And so I feel like I can kind of pick and pluck some of those things, like Stephen Pressfield. I've got a book back there behind me. It's a really old one from the 1940s, 50s, written by Alexander Popov, who was commissioned in the British military for World War II in Tunisia, mostly because he knew the area, spoke the languages, did the thing. And I just find myself, I want to pull those little historical pieces into my writing. And I really enjoy that aspect of it. And it's such a great, great thing to kind of include, because they're little Easter eggs, right? So if somebody's ever read Gates of Fire, or somebody's read Popsky's Private Army or something like that, they will find those things in my books, which it might only be 3 people out there that get it, but it's just one of those fun things to do, I think.
Yeah, they that reminds me of Harry Turtledove.
Mm-hmm.
He's for those of you not familiar with Harry Turtledove, he's a master of alternate history, and his novels are extremely well researched and very fun. One book in particular is The Guns of the South, and if you're not familiar with that book, it's basically the entire premise is some terrorists from South Africa didn't want apartheid ending, and they traced the root cause of apartheid ending to the South losing the Civil War in America. And because that they believed, set forth the chain of events that eventually ended apartheid. So their solution was to go back into history and give General Robert E. Lee thousands of AK-47s and all the ammunition that they could carry. And so it starts off in the winter of 1863, where, that both armies are kind of wintering in their camps. And the Southern Army is in tatters, half their people are barefoot, they have these old raggedy muskets. They have rags hanging off them. And he describes that in intimate detail. But then next thing there's these South Africans that come by and they butter up the deal by giving Robert E. Lee some heart pills for his heart, you know. And next thing you know, they win the Civil War in about 2 weeks. And most of that time is
Yeah.
spent marching to Washington.
Right.
And so it's pretty crazy. They literally marched to the steps of the White House and forced Abraham Lincoln to personally surrender to Robert E. Lee.
Wow.
Yeah, and they did it in 2 weeks. Now, that is only like the first act of the story, so I'm not really giving you any spoilers, but the real story unfolds after that. But it's such a cool concept.
I love that. I was just watching a series on Ulysses S. Grant, and it talked about the Battle of the Wilderness, where they go through, and between the two armies they lost like almost 20,000 troops in a matter of 2 days, and that was with muskets. And when you were talking, I'm like, I can't imagine putting AK-47s in the hands of 60,000 Confederates, and just the amount of slaughter that would have gone on there.
Well, you mentioned muskets, and that's interesting because in the story, a lot of the Southerners didn't know how to aim a rifle because the muskets were so horrendously inaccurate. You just kind of point it in a general direction and hope it hits something.
Yeah.
Whereas they didn't have time to teach them marksmanship skills, so they just learned how to line up their sights, and they kept on calling them repeaters because they had no concept of automatic weapons. It was pretty neat, but yeah, the carnage was, oof. There was a lot of carnage, as you can imagine, because the Northern Army didn't have any other way to attack except for just a frontal charge across a bridge, and they're just getting cut down. But anyway, please, Brent, continue.
So time travel books. We bringing up Turtle Dove's a great one because he always does a great job of. I think I read one of his series where it's like the whole island of Nantucket is basically taken back to like almost prehistorical times. I love that kind of stuff. It's just interesting to think of like how modern people would interact with that, right? One of the books that I really enjoyed that's kind of a time travel thing is this is really bad. Forgotten Ruin by Nick Cole and Jason Onspach. And
That's a good book.
yeah, I love their stuff, and this was the goofiest concept, and I only picked it up because I liked their writing, right? So the Galaxy's Edge series that they had, one of those series that like just redefined science fiction for me. I thoroughly enjoyed all of the aspects of that. And so when Forgotten Ruin came out, I was like, well, I'll give it a try. We'll give it a rip, see how it goes. Forgotten Ruin is a U.S. Army Ranger Battalion that gets sent back in time, forward in time, to a world that has been changed into basically Dungeons and Dragons, right? So Dungeons and Dragons 5e has kind of been made into the world, right? So you got Rangers with Carl Gustavs that are hunting trolls, and you have all of these different aspects of kind of like what a modern warfighting system would look like versus a horde army of skeletons, right? So Thoroughly enjoyable book. I really love that concept. I don't know that I would ever be capable of writing something like that, just because there's so much that goes into that. But I do like that. Gary, do you have anything that you'd add to that, or is there? What are you thinking, dude?
Sorry, I just keep putting myself on mute because my fan's going off nonstop
Yeah.
on my computer.
No worries.
It's all the writing. But yeah, like it's funny when you mention like the Jason Ansbach and that, like they do great books. Can you hear me at all over this?
Barely. Can you move the microphone? Could you pull the mic out away from the fan? Does that work at all?
Just a second. I'm not even
No
using
worries.
the proper one. I don't know why it's doing this.
Well, we'll go to Will for a minute. We'll just throw you on some mute, and we'll go to Will.
There, I am no longer on mute. But no, as far as segueing into science fiction, I read the original novelization of Battlestar Galactica, and such a good book. I mean, it was good because I was a Battlestar Galactica fan. Objectively, if I went back in time and wasn't already a Battlestar Galactica fan, I would read it and I'd be like, huh. So I gave it some grace per se. But that was arguably the first sci-fi book I ever read. And I liked it, but so many of the space opera books and stuff that were out at the time were very epic and very complex for me, and
Yeah.
it was kind of a
Yeah.
turnoff. But then I discovered Starship Troopers. Not the crazy 1997 movie, which was a clown show, but the actual 1959 novel
Mhm.
where you have it wasn't like these drop ships lowered their ramp and all these idiots with assault rifles just came running out with no sense of military organization whatsoever. That's all you see in the movies, just a bunch of idiots with assault rifles just shouting out commands and dying in droves. But in this, they would actually shoot down from the planet in these layered egg-shaped shells, and as they go down to the different layers of atmosphere, these shells would burn off in layers until finally they get to the lower atmosphere, and it's just them in this armored suit, and they would just hit the jets, retro thrusters, and hit the ground, and they could jump 20 meters in any
Yeah.
direction, and they had grenade launchers in their wrists and just all kinds of really cool gadgets. And it was very controversial because in that book, the only way you could become an officer is if you were battle-proven NCO first. They only selected their officers to go through officer candidate school from the
Yeah.
ranks of battle-hardened troops, so that ensured that every officer that they had combat experience before they ever led a platoon. And oh, by the way, as a part of the graduation requirement to become an officer, you have to lead a platoon in combat as like a third lieutenant
Hmm.
or a cadet lieutenant to prove your worth.
Yeah.
So it was very controversial in that aspect. There were a lot of socio-economic, cultural
Right.
issues, especially in the late 50s. But it was fascinating. And the discipline was so raw. I think their boot camp was something like 10 months long.
Wow.
And I took a lot of cues from that because their PT is basically the PT that I did in the Nomad series, where all it was hand-to-hand combat and brutal running. That's all they did. And
Starship Troopers is such a defining book for military science fiction. And I would say for those of you who have not read it, go out and read it. Even if you don't necessarily like Heinlein or like anything like that, there are so many things in there that were, like you said, the power armor, the military organization, the way that he defines a citizen versus a what was his other thing? Citizens
civilian
were,
or
you
a
had to earn your
veteran.
citizenship, right?
mhm,
What was it?
Whether
yeah,
yeah, citizenship is earned through being a veteran. If you weren't a veteran, you're not a citizen.
Yeah.
Yeah, you had to either spend 2 years in the mobile infantry, 4 years in the fleet, or 6 years doing a backbreaking manual labor job as a civil servant. Those were the only three avenues to citizenship.
Which honestly makes you put some skin in the game, right? Like you care about the world that you live in versus the guy who, we talk about bread and circuses sometimes, or I use that term a lot, from ancient Rome, where as long as they could provide bread and circuses for the people in the Colosseum, that's all they cared about, right? And but when you have some skin in the game and you're a citizen, you fought for what you believe in. To me, that kind of makes sense almost, and maybe that's antithetical to the way that we currently think about American citizenship, or whatever. But I think Heinlein had some good ideas. They might have been off a little bit here and there, but I think he had some pretty good ideas too.
I think the biggest problem with that. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah,
good. It's going off right now. It wasn't going off.
You're good, man.
All right, so. What I hated so much about the movie, besides the fact that they ignored 90% of the book, oh, I hate you. Okay. Was the simple fact that Hollywood is very liberal mindset, right? So they mockingly created this environment of what the book was trying to get to, right? Like the totalitarianism that was being taught in the book, or meant not taught, but was spoken of in the book, was not the same mindset that the movie portrayed. In the book, it was kind of saying we were all over the place, like we are right now, right? Like I cannot get over how much Democrats and Republicans hate each other. Like I see guys like online, people calling Trump a pedo. Yeah, Bill Clinton's in every picture. Like it blows my mind to see the separation just through that in just your country. It's here in my country as well. And books like Starship Trooper come to mind, where a certain group of people said, enough, we're going to fall apart if we don't not knuckle on to this and fix the society that we have. So that was my biggest frustration, because maybe I'm broken, but I kind of agreed with the way the society was ran in the book. Like, especially how they dealt with corporal punishment. Like a murderer was caught this morning, tried this afternoon. He's being executed tonight, live at 5. Yes, we're still giving people getting drunk, like knowingly getting drunk, taking out a family, going, well, he was impaired, so he didn't know, so he only gets a couple of months in jail. Like there's no rhyme or reason to how we punish.
Yeah, there's definitely two different court systems. Sometimes it feels like,
But that book, look at the conversation that triggered alone, right? But it's a book that is very serious, and it's very done seriously, but at the same time doesn't take itself seriously.
Right.
But if you're not, and if you don't want to read it, I highly recommend the audio version done by R.C. Bray.
Yes,
it came out there a couple years ago, and he does a fantastic job, and you can get through that book no problem. But yeah, I think I personally believe it should be on the must-read list in schools.
Yes, agreed.
It's just because of everybody. I think both sides of every side of a political spectrum will pick up something from this book. You'll understand what the military does give you. And I think that was the biggest thing. Why I think with Heinemann's biggest thing was everybody loves the military as long as there's a war going on. But the minute the war is over, nobody could give a crap about the military, the soldiers, or anything, right? Like, and we see it, Will, it's not that we want parades or hero worship or anything like that, but what are we fighting for if we're just going back to the way it was? Do you know what I mean? Like we went from a society of taking out Germany, stopping like a world domination power, to spending 20 years in Afghanistan, and it went worse to what it was before we went in. So that book has a very strong place for me in my heart. So thanks for bringing that up before I could, Will, because
well,
that's awesome.
I mean, my biggest thing is how it inspired me on the training sequences, because their boot camp was insane. I mean, their survival, the survival training they did to get evaluated, they dropped them off in the Canadian Rockies with basically nothing, in the snow, and somewhere there's a waypoint 40 miles away. They would just drop you off, and you had 48 hours to go to the waypoint and be extracted, and they give you nothing. So you got to find food, water, the whole 9 yards, and then make it to this waypoint 40 miles away across the mountains. And you got
And
to do
fun
it in
fact,
2 days.
that training establishment is actually Wainwright, Alberta. It's an actual training base there. So it was cool how he did that. So
When you guys were talking about training scenarios, terms of enlistment, Marco Close.
I've
I
read
say
that one, yeah.
Clues.
Okay, that's what I said too. And I think I heard him say close one time. I don't know. German guy. So I'm sure we're all saying it wrong. It's probably got, the U
Hello,
with the
my
two
name is
dots over it or
Klaus.
something. Exactly.
It's Klaus.
It had some exceptional training montage stuff in there. And I love the fact that he went from like kind of one section of the army to another section of the army and went back through and kind of got retrained as a forward observer. And for someone who never experienced that, who was never in the military, I like reading those kind of examples because then I can pull out of those and go like, oh, I like the way that he did this. I like the way that Heinlein did this. And it's very helpful for somebody who doesn't necessarily know it firsthand to be able to pull those really good descriptors out and use those kind of as a regular part of your writing. So
Interesting fact, I was a forward observer.
were you really?
Yes. That
Nice.
was my first job in the military. Was the MOS is called 13 Foxtrot, and the official title is Fire Support Specialist, but you're a forward observer.
Yeah,
I knew
that's
you'd
awesome.
like to watch.
Yeah. Yep. While you guys are scurrying around trying to poop in the bushes, I'm on top of a hill with
I
binoculars.
thought I was in a hotel, man. Make up your mind.
Top story of the hotel in the suite, right? With eating the charcuterie board.
There's nothing worse than when they put the batteries in the remote in wrong. Ugh. Your eyes and stoppage on a TV remote vary between the different hotels. It's specialized training, but once you get there, and
Hey, so we talked a lot about no sci-fi stuff. How about fantasy? Do you guys read fantasy? Does any of that kind of ever filter into your reader list?
I've tried. My mind loves picturing science fiction and space battles and all this and that. I have a hard time with the fantasy side of the house. Like, I love fantasy movies, but like, I was very grateful that they made the Lord of the Rings movies, so I didn't have to finish the book.
Is there something specific that turns you away from them?
I just find it, for me, when I read, I visualize. I'm a very visual person. And I just had a hell of a time, and I still do. Like, I try to look at stuff. I have a hard time putting, I guess, myself in that character's position and trying to explore that world along with them. It just doesn't make sense. Like even like Dungeon Crawler Carl, like, great series, but like, I think if I had to read it, I don't think I'd have been able to get through it because Jeff Hayes does such a great job narrating it. I was able to get through them no problem. It was just, I just have a hard time with them. It's nothing against the writers. It's nothing against the genre. I love the effort and everything that goes into them because they're not easy to write, especially like if you read some of Jamie Castle stuff, right? Like, it's huge. I just can't get into that mindset, I guess.
Well, with Dungeon Crawler Carl, the first 3 books, I read the ebook, and the third one is a very confusing book. Very confusing. And
Is that the train one?
Yes.
Yeah.
The Iron Tangle.
I got lost on the train one.
Yeah, I mean, anytime there's a warning at the beginning of the book that says, don't worry about keeping track of XYZ, great, because I couldn't try to keep track of it if I could. Even the characters couldn't keep track of it.
Yeah.
But it was after that I switched to and finished the rest of them on audiobook and discovered the genius that is Jeff Hayes. And from there, I didn't turn back. But no, I did well reading the first 2. The third one almost broke me. of reading the rest of them, but then I switched to the audiobooks and it salvaged the whole thing for me.
I should try those again. I legitimately I got pretty deep into book 3 and I was like, I can't do it. Like there was so much blood and gore and guts and all this stuff. And I'm like, I mean, when literally the train is completely full of, offal up to their necks, I was like, bro, I just, like there's funny, haha, good story, whatever. And then there's like, this is just freaking over the top. I'm lost. I don't know what's really going on. And you're just filling trains with, with dead bodies. And,
Yeah,
it was.
I think that's
go ahead.
probably. I think you just by saying that hit it right there for me. Writing was for Gary is therapeutic purpose, right? And yes, there's some violence and there's some. Sadly, I find the stuff I put in my books is real life stuff.
Yeah,
You know what I
same
mean?
thing, same thing.
But not the entire book. Like for example, Project Threshold, the Fracture Point book has a very minimal horror undertone to it, but it's not a horror book. You know what I mean? Whereas I find where sometimes where they get too graphic and I don't want to see that stuff because I want to relax. I want to escape the worlds and things that I've seen, whether it be through a camera or in person or whatever. I'm my own person, and I think that's probably one of the biggest things that I don't like over excessive gore, over excessive violence because it's not real.
Yeah, it felt to me like it was gore for gore's sake, and I just couldn't. And much what you're saying. I mean, I think the three of us all have probably our own versions of PTSD or PTSI, and those things. It did trigger that in me a little bit, and I was like, okay, I can't take any more of this. So I should probably pick up book 4 and just try to see if I can get through it, and maybe it gets better. I've heard from multiple people it gets better. So maybe that's the key. I just need to push past it.
It does. You have to, like I said, the book 3 is kind of like the gatekeeper to the rest of the series. If you can get through book 3, then the rest of it's easy.
You're a fan, are you? Well, we'll see after this.
Yeah. Well, but like I said, if you switch to the audiobooks, they're just so well produced
Yes.
that I think you'd really enjoy picking it up with the audiobook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The problem with the audiobooks is like, so I had to listen. So again, like I'll listen to books to relax and stuff and just wind down, especially when you write all day. But I found with those books, because there's so much going on, they're very fast paced, and the way the guy narrates, you're not relaxed listening to the book either.
No,
you
no.
know? So
for sure.
it's, and I think this is why this series has gotten so much attention from so many different genres, because it's such an original concept that escapes
And,
most of like.
and it was all pantsed. The whole series was pantsed.
That's crazy.
I don't know. I don't. First of all, lit RPG is challenging as a rule because there's so much to keep track of. But to be able to do it and pants your way through 8 books, that's
Yeah.
just
Especially the point system.
crazy.
And the points as well, because they all add up. I guess somebody went through to see if this isn't a real lit RPG, right? And did all the points, and I guess they all added up properly too.
Wow.
Right. Well, I saw an interview with Matt Denneman where he actually has tons and tons of spreadsheets open, and he keeps track in detail every character's stats, their inventory, their levels, their skills, their armor, all that stuff. And so he pantses the story, but he has all that reference material to keep track of everything. And that's
No idea how he does
just
it.
I don't have a clue. I couldn't do it.
So we got time for like kind of one more question. And is there any book that specifically means a lot to you as a writer that we haven't covered? Anything that that you want to mention or bring up? Maybe it's even something you read as a kid or something that you're currently reading that you want to talk about before we kind of blast through the end of this. Anybody?
Why don't you take that, Gary?
Actually, no. I've never like I love so many books. Like, do I have a favorite? My go-to is Starship Troopers. I read that at least once a year probably. just because I just love the story so much. Yeah, I find there's few in the day of rapid fire writing and getting books out there. I find it's hard to find a book that you want to go back to and read again. It's now a series you want to go back to read again, right? So that kind of complicates things. But for me, Starship Troopers is probably the one that will always stand out for me. But is there a book out there that I absolutely love? No, I love them all. I love the fact that they're all out there. And there's no real book out there that I hate either, because that's what inspired me to write. Like, oh, why wouldn't you do this? Or how come they're doing this and this and this? Well, that's obviously the way this person did their story, and fantastic. So if I wanted to see a story the way I wanted to see it, well, I guess I had to write it myself. And that's what that was what my therapist said. God, I sound like ridiculous when I say that, but yeah, like my therapist literally said, you should write a book. And I'm like, okay. And I wrote a book. It was just like research how to
awesome.
write a book, like, and wrote a book. And it was the best accomplishment I ever made. Getting it published, that was even, forget about it.
For me,
Oh, good.
I'm so, no, yeah.
No, do you think?
Yeah. All right. Well, for me, it would probably be Eric Nyland's Halo Fall of Reach, the novelization of the prequel story to the original Halo Combat Evolved video game.
Yeah, I got that book as well. It's a good book. Yeah.
That is a wonderfully written book, and it's not too long, not too short, and extremely detailed in the sense that it makes you truly understand the Halo universe from an organic perspective.
Yes.
And you
made the
learn
games more fun too.
It did. The second book was from a different author, whose name escapes me, but it was Halo: The Flood, which is basically the story that goes along with Halo Combat Evolved, but it adds the perspective of the Marines and different things happening in the background that you don't get to see in the game. And it fills in the gaps. And when you read the book and then you play the game campaign, you're like, oh, you realize that it's all parallel and it's feeding into the story. But in the Halo universe, there's one particular trilogy that is written by Karen Travis. And she's written a lot of Gears of War books, and she's just tremendous writer. She wrote the Kilo 5 trilogy, which is in the Halo universe, and it's a team of ODST Marines partnering up with a former Spartan who went through the process as a kid, but the augmentations didn't take. So she ended up just serving in the Navy. She commanded this team. They had a Spartan on the team, and they do, and that's what inspired book 3 of my Nomad series, because they, instead of just being run and gun and this cool spec ops team, they do a lot of infiltration, a lot of spy work and spycraft. So it added depth to like the potential story. And those books are just so well curated and written and by such great writers. I don't think I've read a bad one. So yeah, the Halo universe, check out the books.
Karen Travis is such a there's not a lot of female writers I like, just because they tend to write just differently than men do, right? Which is not a bad thing. It's just not necessarily my flavor. But Karen Travis is one of those.
Use too big of words.
Yes, exactly, right. Karen Travis is one of those that I think she just knocks it out of the park with literally everything that she touches. And her Star Wars series on the Clone Troopers, the Clone Commando series, was one of those that was kind of like genre defining for me too. Halo Reach, I might have shed a tear when reading that book. I mean, it was that good. It was just amazing. The one thing that the ones that I would mention is Legacy of Heorot, which I brought up earlier. This is my actually original copy of Legacy of Heorot. It was written by Larry Nevin, Jerry Pournelle, Steve Barnes, and Steve Barnes was a young writer at the time. Larry Pornell is honestly one of the kings of science fiction and fantasy. And Nevin as well, right? I mean, scientifically based, hard sci-fi kind of minded guys, and they had brought Steve Barnes in as kind of like literally just to hand down the knowledge to the next generation, which I thought is super important, right? And I think all three of us have had the advantage of having people like the guys in the Mill SF podcast, and the different people that have just taken the time to give us the ability to be better authors through their time and their effort, and just being willing to kind of help us and prod us along. And so this book kind of stands out to me in that same respect, that to take somebody under your wing and just to kind of assist them along the trail with you, I think is huge. So I would definitely suggest this is a super fun book to read. It might be kind of up your alley too with the horror aspect. It's more of a man versus environment kind of a story, but very, very well written and a ton of fun, really enjoyable. Will, you got something you want to take us out of here with, and we'll just wrap this up?
Sure. Yeah, I was just looking at my phone. And, we try to end each episode with a tip. This one is very similar to a previous tip, but I like the way this is worded better. Don't be afraid to put words on paper without judgment. Just right. If you don't have, just like Louis L'Amour said, get the juices flowing, and the ideas will start coming. But you don't want to judge your first draft harshly. It's a first draft for a reason. And if you get stuck,
Others will do that for you.
right. If you get stuck, leave a placeholder. It's just like taking a standardized test. Go back and fill in the gaps later. The ideas will come. Set a placeholder. If you don't have a scene resolved, don't resolve it. Keep writing, and don't judge yourself. Don't be too hard on yourself, which I'm very bad at. But get that first draft done without judgment, and have fun with the process. And you can always go back. That's what editing is for. You can always go back and fix your work and pretty it up. There's a process for everything. But don't second guess yourself while you're writing, because you're putting up an artificial obstacle that only you can overcome.
Yes.
And it was never there to begin with. It's all in your mind.
It's a fantastic point.
Yep. Great advice. Great advice. Well, hey, thank you guys so much for joining us today. I hope for those of you who made it to the end, I hope we're entertaining. I hope we're having a good time here, and you guys are getting something out of this. We very much love doing this, and this is just such a, when you're an author, you spend a lot of time in your office on your own, pounding away at the keyboard, just kind of being a lone wolf. And I can tell you that these two guys have made a huge difference in my day-to-day, just being able to chat with them. We're on Discord with each other pretty much all day long, sometimes to the detriment of my getting my words in for the day. But so if you guys want to join us on there, we would love to have you as part of our Discord. It's a fun place to be, and we talk about writing a lot, and it's just a great place to kind of hang out. And even as we're on, I feel like I'm on maybe step 2 or 3, and Gary's on step 4, and Will's on step 7 or 8, as we're working our way up the staircase. And we want to help you guys. We'll pull you right along up with us if you guys want to be a part of that. So so
ask for $1.
What's that?
And we won't ask for $1.
Yes, yeah, that $0 will be
Swear to
taken
God,
from
ever
you.
since my book came out, I have been offered so many times for them to help your advertisement through a cinematic preview, and for $5,000 we can get your book out there to more people. And it's like,
no way, Jose.
Parasites.
Yep.
Yeah.
Just say no.
Yeah. Anyway, thank you guys for being here today, and I hope you enjoyed it.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
Yep, like and subscribe. Yeah, we'll catch you on the flip side. Thanks, y'all.